Hey everyone, welcome to another live episode of the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show here at the Smoke Inn Studios. We've got a great show tonight. I've got two people I highly respect from the industry. We got Cigar Coop on tonight, and everybody's fan favorite Jarrid Trudeau is on again. We had Glenn Case back in April, so we got Jarrid in the fall. He's been a traveling guru, I think, over the last few months. I heard him say he has been all over the world several times over and back and forth again. So it's nice that he was able to take tonight and spend it with us. And then we've obviously got Cigar Coop on. Now, there has been an article in play that Coop wrote around cigar media in crisis. We're going to touch on that article today. One of the things I wanted to do is bring Coop on and give him the ability to maybe clear anything up that was maybe unclear in the article, make sure people really truly understood it. Now, I'm just going to be incredibly clear. I am not what I would consider press. Okay, this show is a fun show that happens to be that has a lot of cigar partners with it, that is based and revolved around cigars. But I do not consider myself to be like a Walter Cronkite or like a Coop, like a how about that cigar, or a half wheel or anything like that. Nobody comes to me for late breaking. I do have a breaking news button on my little thingy here, but I don't get to press it often, and that's totally fine. There's a lot better media out there than me, and there's a lot better reviewers out there and people that cover all the ins and outs of the cigar industry at a much more detailed level than anything I could. So just know that as we're talking through this, I am in no way, shape, or form pointing anything at like a I think I'm press, I think I'm breaking news, because I truly don't. And I just wanted to kind of set the stage for that. And as we go ahead and bring in the guests, we've got Jarrid and we've got Coop. How you guys doing tonight?
Do-
Amen.
Hey, doing great. Thank you very
Good.
much for having me.
Good. So I want to go into the first segment of the night, which would be, or the starting it off, which was let's define cigar media. But before we do, we got to do the only segment that we do on the show, which is the "What Are You Smoking Tonight" segment, sponsored by Dunbar Tobacco and Trust. So, Jarrid, you are up, brother. What are you smoking? I just threw that right at you. That was nice.
I have the 2023 Kristoff TAA, which is a Connecticut Perfecto, a 60 gauge cut Perfecto. And we made this in 2023 for TAA.
Fantastic, Coop. What are you smoking tonight?
Well, in honor of Jared and Kristoff, I'm smoking the Kristoff Guardrail in the Matador size. Yeah, this is the Matador size, um, which is a Toro size. And this is the cigar that has the Zimbabwe tobacco in the filler. Love
Very
this cigar.
nice.
Love
Very
this cigar.
nice.
Love this cigar.
Well, I will tell you, this has been one of my new fan favorites from Kristoff, which is the Tres Compadres.
Oh,
This has
wow.
been in my humidor. Jarrid was super kind enough to send me one of these over before they ever even released, and since then, it's been in my humidor and will stay there. This has been a fantastic cigar. Jarrid, can you tell everybody what this is and what is in it?
So the Tres Compadres is one of the two releases that we did a couple of years ago, which were Nicaraguan puros. We are our factories in Santiago, Dominican Republic. We use a lot of Dominican tobacco, obviously, but we buy tobacco from everywhere. Like Coop said, there's Zimbabwe in the guardrail. It's an Arapiraca wrapper on that. But so the we wanted to do kind of something outside of our wheelhouse, which was the Nicaraguan puro, and so we did the Kristoff Nicaragua for one, and then the Tres Compadres was a project that's like really, really near and dear to our hearts. So um, Glenn's uh, Glenn Case, the owner of Kristoff, his best friend Chuck Finch and Rolando Villamil, who ran our factory for 18 years before he passed. Rolando passed during COVID. It was like very sudden kind of thing. Um, he he was an absolute legend. The guy was a machine. He uh, been in the tobacco business his entire life. He was in his 70s when he passed. Guy ripped 3 packs of cigarettes a day, drank to his heart's content, lived a great life. But he was kind of our mentor, certainly Glenn's mentor, and then mine. afterwards in the cigar business. Well, he passed away, and then within 4 months, Glenn's best friend Chuck Finch, who Glenn had been friends with for more than 40 years at that point, a childhood best friend, he also passed away in an accident. So that was like, two of Glenn's best friends. Boom, boom, right after the other. And Chuck used to come with us to the Dominican Republic. He used to set up trade shows when we didn't have a booth builder back in the day. He was like really one of the guys, and we all thought really highly of him. Plus, the kind of intangible thing of being a confidant, and I don't know how many things Glenn must have bounced off him over the years and stuff like that. So anyways, both guys, super, super important to us, and they both died within 4 months of each other. So it was really sad. And so when we went back to the Dominican Republic for the first time, I was happy enough I was able to be there. And they had changed Rolando's office into like a conference room kind of. And it was like, really heavy, because it was like, man, this is the first time in, 21 years, that we haven't blended with Rolando in his office, with him sitting behind the desk, drinking coffee, drinking Presidente, whatever. And so we saw a picture frame that had been there for years prior, and it said Tres Compadres, on the picture frame, and it was Glenn, Chuck, and Rolando. And as we're sitting there working on what was then the Kristoff Nicaragua, we're like, oh my God, that's it, right? Like that's what we've got to make, some sort of tribute to the guys. So when you see it in the store, when you see it in stores, it has a kind of unique presentation to it. The box looks different, everything. And it also has a QR code. So when you do look for it in stores, you scan the QR code and it'll show pictures of the three guys, kind of talk about the story and things like that. So there's also, little kind of Easter eggs, little coins and seals and stuff like that on it with everybody's initials. There's quotes that they used to say on the back of the band. There's kind of a dedication. So anyways, really special project for us. All Nicaraguan tobacco. It does have a Condega binder, which is a little bit interesting, and that makes it a little bit creamier, a little bit more medium bodied, but super nice, medium bodied, really creamy. That's done really, really well for us. I know that these two guys like it. It's sold really, really well for us. It got number 4 on Half Wheel's list last year for their top 25. So anyways, really, really happy.
It got number 4 on my list last year.
It got number 4 on your list as well. Yeah.
Well, it's so, number 1 on
really
my list tonight for the show.
It is,
and it's a fantastic cigar.
And you, Jarrid, you actually just told me something. The Condega binder, there's a creaminess with that cigar, and it holds the creaminess the whole way down, which is what and a lot of cigars don't do that. And the balance on that cigar, I'm telling you, it's like no other Nicaraguan Puro I've had. That cigar, it is so good.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. And the Kristoff Nicaragua, that has a Corojo binder, so it's a little bit spicier, a little bit
spicy,
but anyways, yeah. So we're really, really proud of that cigar. So I'm glad.
Well, you should be. It's really, really. It was a great time for you guys to come out with this because you were rebranding, you were putting out new, so this was just a really killer cigar. If you've not had the Tres Compadres yet, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go find one, or better yet, just jump over to smokin.com and order yourself a box. It is a box-worthy cigar. Thank you so much, Steve Saka, for sponsoring the What Are You Smoking Tonight segment of the show. All right, so I want to start this part off by, I want both of you, because obviously Jarrid's coming from way more of the corporation side, but as Jarrid mentioned in the very first time he was ever on this show, he actually used to do Cigar Coop show. So he is very familiar. When I say do, he used to be like a part of it, like actively a part of it.
So back in his Stogie Geeks days. In
correct,
fact, we almost brought him in permanently, and then he took the Kristoff job.
So he understands. He understands media. He understands how it works, and now he's coming from the manufacturer side. So, Jarrid, I want to start with you on this. Define cigar media as you would, as Kristoff would define it.
I think anybody, and we did kind of talk a little bit off air about this stuff, but I think anybody that's in the space whether it be reviews, whether it be news, whether it be coverage of trade shows, whether it be kind of like industry gossip, just interviews, like personal stuff. Like I think Ryan and Coop, you guys are kind of the two ends of the spectrum, right? I think you both do a little bit of both, but I think Ryan is much more on the personal side. You've got uh, much more on the personal kind of like get to know you kind of thing. Coop, I think you're much more on the reporting side. You're much more on the you want to break
Yeah,
new
yeah.
release. I think that's pretty fair
I think that's fair.
characterization.
Yeah,
I think it's very fair.
yeah.
So I think anybody, but really, if you're somebody with, if you're a single channel, like say you're somebody on Instagram that posts your reviews in the Instagram not comment, whatever it's called, caption or whatever it is. If you do that on a regular basis and you consider yourself media, I just think anybody, it's one of those things where it's like, you can kind of pick your pronouns nowadays. You know, you can do it. You can do whatever you want. If you want to say that you're media and you consistently post about things, then you can. Whether or not that qualifies you to attend things or be part of things, I don't know, and I don't know who gets to decide. I don't know who the arbiter of that stuff is. But anyways, I don't think it's as rigid as some people say. You know,
Coop.
Yeah, it's very open. Media is mass communication, and there's different platforms that you can do that mass communication. You could publish on a website. You could publish in print. You can broadcast live. You can podcast on demand. In terms of how you deliver it, you can use a press/reporting approach, like Jarrid just said. You could use an entertainment type approach, and which is, by the way, not unique to cigar media. We see, if you watch like Fox News and Fox Sports is a great example where they incorporate entertainment into it. And the idea is these different platforms, these different delivery mechanisms, and people have a choice on it. And not one is not better than the other. I'll make that very clear. What it does is it provides different. Yes, they are different in a lot of ways in terms of how the mechanics work, but they provide choice, and ultimately people can decide how they want to do things, how they want to consume that. So it's a very open thing, but I'd say it's the platform and the delivery is the two key things I'd look at.
So what were your main intentions with that? And by the way, the article, guys, that we're talking about, you can go find over on Cigar Coop, but I'll save you a little bit of time. Just Google Cigar Coop Crisis in Media, and it literally will pull it straight up. Cigar-Coop.
Yeah.
But then while you're there, continue to look around because Coop's got a lot of great
Right.
articles. But so Coop, what was the purpose of the article? Let me, it's a two-part question. Was the purpose of the article to explain, in your opinion, the reasons how about that cigar went under? Because you mentioned them in the article. That's the reason why I'm asking the question. Or was it more of the causes for maybe all of cigar media potentially getting hurt?
It was both. So let me kind of go back before we kind of get to the how about that cigar piece. And one thing I've done on Cigar Coop in the past few years is I do something that I term a SWOT analysis, SWOT. And that's where I look at Cigar Coop and I do a kind of a checkpoint of where we are. And SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities where we can grow, and threats to our existence. So I had done that at the beginning of the year. Like, and I kind of looked at that, and at the same time, the last few weeks there were a couple of media brands that announced they were shutting down. The first one was Barry Stein, who now has a site called the Barrel Burner, and Barry's been in this for 20 years. Barry was doing this a lot longer than I did, and he's getting out, which was, and he has his reasons for getting out. And then a few weeks later, the How About That Cigar guys announced that they were shutting it down. Concurrently, there were a couple of other sites that have kind of gone on hiatus. Blind Man's Puff has been on hiatus for a year. And they were a very well respected site. The other one was Cigar Public, which was being done by Pravada, which was, I thought, for a while starting to gain some traction, certainly, and they've gone on hiatus. So I looked at all these things. I see the How About That Cigar thing, and I said, this is interesting, right? So I went back to my SWOT analysis, right? And I said, well, the strengths and weaknesses were a little more specific to Coop, right? Same with the opportunities. But when I looked at the threats, the things that kind of challenge us, I suddenly was looking at this and I'm saying these aren't specific to Cigar Coop. These are things that are specific to all media that we're dealing with, no matter what that platform is, no matter what that delivery mechanism is.
Sure.
So I identified, okay, you know what? Sites probably were dealing with some of these threats. Are they the sole reason why they shut down? I don't know. But they certainly weren't. These threats that I'm going to identify did not make life easier for anybody. Okay. So I looked at that. I'm like, well, yeah, the purpose was to identify those. And then I was very clear that they were totally fair. They're fair threats. This is the playing field we're in, the business we're in. We're in a competitive thing. I think I heard one show say there's not enough eyes to kind of go on something, right? Like there's only so many eyes that people could look at, right? So I identified, and I used this word choice 5, which I actually was starting to hashtag after I did the SWOT analysis at the beginning of the year. So if you go back to the beginning of the year on Instagram on Coop, you'll see this choice 5 thing over and over and over again. That we know we were dealing with being choice 5, meaning that there's 4 threats that absolutely were having impacts on us in different ways. And I'll go through what the 4 threats were. Number 1 is print publications. So print publications have a very strong arm in the cigar industry.
And I have no idea why. I've never seen anyone look at them. I've never seen anyone pick up a cigar aficionado, pick up a cigar, and I'm not saying that they're bad. I've just never seen it happen.
Yeah. I also used I threw a little bomb in there. I said there's something called robber baron tactics, which basically, if you look at robber baron tactics, they're meant to exclude your competition. They're meant to crush your competition like the old robber barons were.
Sure.
And not everyone does that, by the way, but it does go on, and I'm on the other end of that a lot. Then the second one, this is the one that fired a lot of people up, with retailers. And I said that this is a huge problem that we're seeing in cigar media right now. For a few reasons. If you look at me from a press standpoint, about 70% of the new releases the information is going to the retailers before the media, right? And that's a debatable thing, right? So we see that. We see a lot of now media have, they have podcasts and they have shows and they're covering trade shows. And, they're another level of competition that maybe we didn't have to deal with that 10 years ago. But now we have to certainly deal with it. And by the way, they have every right to be in the game. I'm not complaining that they're in the game, but it's another thing that's happening. And cigar industries have chosen to continue to work with the retailers in a lot of ways with that. And I respect that. Trade associations. The trade associations, they're definitely covering. I think the trade associations also need to have a media arm. I think it should be focused more on advocacy, not what we do, but they certainly have a right to. Other trade associations have media arms, so that's not really but it is another thing. And then I mentioned other media sites. Like ultimately, we still compete with each other, right?
You, Half Wheel, any of them.
So here's a great example. Like if Jarrid's on this show tonight, right? Do you think I'm going to call Jarrid to do a show next week with me? No, because it doesn't really help anybody. Certainly,
I had to schedule this almost 6 months in advance.
Right, but that's okay. But we're very careful with that. We usually are very careful with that. So yes, there are other media, and there needs to be other media. If there's not other media out there, right, Cigar Coop doesn't succeed, right? So those are the 4 things that I looked at. Coop now is we're choice 5 in a lot of cases. But this is where everyone got the article wrong, okay, that I saw these other shows do. I basically wrote this, and I'm going to read the words right out of the article. Truthfully, there is nothing unfair about there being many options about getting information out. Competition is a part of any business, and cigar media is certainly no exception. And I said at Cigar Coop, while we do feel the effects of a Choice 5 syndrome, probably maybe more with Cigar News, we're not going anywhere, okay? So that is the extent to what I said.
So effectively, you laid out what you saw as threats, but you didn't. But a lot of people are taking that as, oh, Coop is complaining or Coop is this, and
Well,
it's a real.
you,
But
you
I just
were.
laid out. Yeah.
no, but he wasn't complaining
That
as
is
like a
what it was.
woe is me. He was just
No.
analyzing other areas within the competition that maybe people haven't taken into account.
Right. So, for example, did Barry Stein maybe have some trouble getting press information that he struggled with? Did Matt Ty have some issues of getting guests because again, looking at types of things? All these things kind of look in, and basically how much a media brand wants to invest to combat the outside threats is up to them, and that's part of that's why you do a SWOT analysis. When you look at this, you decide, okay, where am I going to pivot myself and adjust. And for example, with Cigar Coop, we did some very big pivots in the last year, particularly around our music show has really grown, and now the food reviews, which are very small that we do, we've seen a huge growth with that, right? So we pivoted and we got rid of things like TAA coverage, which we felt was going nowhere. We really cut back on shop exclusives because there was just no interest we felt with our audience. So we pivoted in different areas as we saw these threats coming, and we just basically pivoted. That's all we did. My words were very clear. We are in a fair, competitive space, but sometimes you have to invest to combat those threats, and not everyone's willing to make that level of investment.
It's true.
Not one of those shows brought and not one of those shows. And I saw some of those shows. Not one of them brought that point up. And no one called me to like ask for a comment on that.
Which is weird.
Because I would have happened. Ryan's the only one who did. He reached out to me today. And
that's weird in the media to not reach out for comment if you're going to report on something. But I also think what you did, and again, I'm not like I'm embarrassed to say it, I don't follow the stuff as much as I should probably follow the stuff, which is probably part of the problem that you're identifying. Like as a manufacturer, I'm not really following.
No, and I wouldn't expect a manufacturer to do it. Yeah.
But that being said, what you did was you posted a not sunshine and rainbows SWOT analysis.
Absolutely not. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
You just posted a negative SWOT analysis, and people interpreted it, it seems. And again, I don't know who these people are.
And you're right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
People interpreted it as you coming after them or whatever. I don't know. I just think you posted a pretty realistic assessment of the industry. As a manufacturer, am I going to give the information to my retailers as quickly as possible? Yeah, because they fucking buy the cigars. So but you're going to compete against that forever.
You and I know each other a long time, and I've reached out to you on a lot of things. I know you talked about Rolando earlier. I remember when that happened, I said, you know what? That's something I have to reach out to Jarrid to. This is a big story.
And you did.
It's a big story where I'm going to invest in the cycles. Am I going to do that for someone doing a 50-box release going to one store? No, that's my point. I'm not going to do that with everybody.
Someone if I had the bandwidth, they don't even care about it.
They don't exactly right. Exactly. They don't even. And that's my point. And I know, like I said, I heard a comment with that. Do we reach out and look? There are media outlets out there that are relentless to do that, and that's their choice. We've not seen the ROI back on that to justify investing that many cycles. And I have a large team, and I don't see the.
At that point, you're working for the retailers who you just identified as a threat.
Right. Well, by the way, I have two retailers on the Coop payroll, kind of on the Coop payroll that are feeding me. That's how I know all this stuff's going to the retailers. I basically cut some deals with retailers to get information, and then. No, I won't steal a photo that they were given. I kind of go back and I say if it's something worth investing time in, I'll contact the company. But once it's out to the retailer, it's public unless there's an NDA. It's fair game to cover once you've told a retailer. So unless there's an NDA.
I heard a critique on a show again. I'm not here, guys. If you want to watch shows, you're more than welcome to go and find all these shows. I'm not dropping any shows on this show. This is not a show to make anybody feel bad or cause a ruckus. It's just it's an interesting point. And Coop wrote an article that for the last week has been kind of taking over a lot of these shows, and I just felt like it was valid to have a show like this as well. So there was a critique on a show that I saw that said, how can Coop complain about stores when he's on Abe's show?
Yeah. And guess
Yeah.
what? You don't think Abe and I have had battles behind the scenes?
And that's what I'm saying. Like
Abe
but
and
at the same time,
Abe and I have had some battles behind the scenes. But
at the
You don't
same
have to.
time,
You don't have to
though,
be a car to stand in the garage.
no, yeah, but at the
exactly,
same
yeah.
time, though, KMA
That doesn't make sense.
never started out as a shop show. It has turned into that now. And when you ask Abe that in the beginning, nobody ever brought in smoking as part of that. So what would your retort be to somebody going, okay, well then, like, Abe, which, by the way, I love Abe. It's not a critique of Abe.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Obviously.
like I said. Well, I am a part of KMA. It is a retail show. Do you think that, and there is information that Abe and I have argued about things that have gone to the retailers that have not gone to the media. And Abe and I have had some pretty knockdown battles behind the scenes on that, but we respect each other. But again, it's because it's a fair playing field, and they were very nice to ask me to come on that. Why wouldn't I be a part of that? But like I said, there have been some battles behind the scenes on that, because I guess, Abe obviously comes at it from the retail point of view. The other thing I'll say is he operates that show like a true media entity for the
He
most part.
does.
So like if he has guests on, you don't have to be in his store to be a guest. So, and he's had, we don't do as many guests anymore on that show, but he has that. And Abe, like I said, I think I've never been censored by Abe on anything. So it's a fair comment, but I think the person who made that comment only consumes one media outlet to begin with. So I don't think they've seen enough of what we do there, and nor do they have some of the behind the scenes battles that we've had on that. So
and I also think, when you're, I mean, let's be honest too, when you're Abe, you've been in this for 30 years, it's not like he was a fly by night, just a startup shop. I mean, the guy built up one of the most successful shops in the country.
Yep.
As a manufacturer, Jarrid, what do you say to Coop's reaction around manufacturers not getting information over to media or press, or getting it to shops first instead of, or even talk about the exclusive side where only people get to one source first type deal?
I'll tell you this. We don't do a lot with print media anymore. We used to do everything, and I don't do a ton anymore. I do Cigar Journal because it has international circulation, and we distribute in 70-something countries. And then I also do Enthusiast Report or something like that, because they were new and up and coming. We had relationships there. And so, but we pulled back from print media. I bet you it was 7 or 8 years ago, probably, maybe more recent. But just because the world is so much smaller now, and I think that's a threat that Coop was identifying in his article, is the world is smaller. If for 10 years, like you said, 10 years ago, you didn't have to compete with this shit. Well, for 10 years, the entire world has been bashing us over the head with, you have to be good at social media, otherwise you're going to fail.
Yeah.
So I think that really, I think it's going to get worse, right, Coop? Like, I think it's going to get worse. More retailers are going to get
and if I'm going to stay in this game, Jarrid, I have to accept the fact that this is going on, because the world has changed. Like, if you go back to 1996, the way people got their information, like a cigar announcement done, is they fax it to Cigar Aficionado, who was really the only game in town at the time, and hoped that Cigar Aficionado would get that fax and put it on it.
Or go there.
Or go there. Or go there.
Yeah, that's like,
or go there.
Yeah.
And then the blogs came, right? Then the video arms started to come. And COVID changed the game, where a lot of cigar companies were becoming media outlets because they needed ways to stay in front of their customers, right? So the world changed so much. And I have to also look at that the world has changed, right? And if I don't pivot, that's what the whole purpose of going back to the SWOT analysis was, is if I don't look at things and cut, like Bear Duplessis uses the word trim the fat. If I don't trim the fat, then we're going to suffer as a media brand. It hurts our sponsors. Ultimately, our audience gets hurt with that. So we have to identify those things. Now, the strengths and weaknesses that are specific, I didn't disclose that in the article, because that's kind of like my strategic piece. But I don't think anyone would be surprised on what my strengths and what my weaknesses are. And I certainly have a lot of weaknesses.
No,
So
but to kind of finish what I was talking about.
sorry, Darren. Yeah, go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
I think it's going to continue to get worse. Every day, a new fledgling featherless nerd is born who wants to talk about this stuff. So every day it gets more competitive. Every day a retailer gets better at social media or reads an article about ChatGPT or something like that. It will continue to get more competitive for you. So I think if I was looking at your SWOT, and Ryan, I promise I'll answer your question.
Oh, so, dude, this is great. Please.
I do not do exclusivity with anyone.
Right.
What I do is try to remember what I'm supposed to do. So when I have something that I think is newsworthy or that I want to promote, because from a manufacturer standpoint, I want every fucking body talking about my project.
Yep, absolutely.
You know what I mean? I want everybody. I'm not specifically excluding any media outlet. It's just maybe I search in my Gmail, and if I haven't gotten an email from you recently and it doesn't pop up, I am like, fuck it, I'm not going to text Coop and remind. And I usually, to be fair, am.
And like I said, you and I know each other a long time.
Yeah,
Kristoff. By the way, Glenn, back when he came on Gallerones, I reached out to him on Gallerones, and he spent an hour on the phone with me. So this is before you even got there. So we've always kind of Kristoff's always been a good brand to invest in with us, as we found.
And we want to communicate, but we don't. Once a year. Maybe we do a release at PCA or something like that. Well, I want my coverage I want to release it. I want to release it in my booth. I want to show it to retailers.
Yep.
I want to release it in my booth. I want you to come to my booth to see it because I didn't send you the entire kit. I want, you know what I mean? So
it gives us a reason to come to the booth.
But if I do a middle of the year, non-trade show affiliated drop or release, then I try to remember to send out press releases. But you know what? There's also media outlets, and I know you're probably sick of hearing this, that reach out all the time and ask, hey, what are you doing for this?
But we have to look at, we have to balance if it's worth doing that, or not. That's all I'm saying.
I'm saying, looking at your SWOT, Will, it probably is. You got to get more competitive. You have to be, and principle. There's no nobility in poverty.
No.
If you're standing on business that we should reach out and do that, then the only one who loses is you. So
we've only, and I'll be honest, I've only identified 8 or 9 companies that it's worth doing that type of work with.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say who the companies are or anything like that. So, I mean, there's certain companies it's 8 or 9 companies I have to do that with.
And there's certain companies but they probably have a marketing division, and they have these different things where you have to go through certain channels and stuff like that. With me, it's like, if you're like, hey, Jarrid, I didn't get the press release on this, I'll be like, oh shit, sorry, I forgot, because it's me, because it's me doing it, and I'm a moron.
Yeah.
So should I have a list somewhere? Yeah, I should have a list. I don't. I try to remember, and I can't read good, but I try hard. So
I will tell you, news is the least ROI right now in Coop. It has the least ROI right now.
I bet it is.
We have so many other things that it's an important part of our engine, though, and our platform. That every time I talk about cutting news out, and believe me, I've had the discussions a few times.
Have you really?
Oh yeah, I've had it, because it's you look at trimming the fat, and right now news is because there's so many ways to consume it. Is it worth the squeeze? And the answer I usually come back is it is, because there are releases out there that simply we can really do a very good job with, can go beyond the press release.
And you turn chicken shit into chicken salad sometimes too.
Yes.
You sometimes an innocuous thing that you write or do that you have no idea is going to spin out into something big, ends up taking over the cycle for a certain period of time. So I think you keep doing what you're doing, but I do think that the juice right now, if I was looking at your analysis, I would find it hard pressed to look at something and try to say the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I think you do what you need to do.
I appreciate it. It's just some effort gets a bigger, and we measure everything by impressions. Some do a lot more impressions than others. And I'll just say this: the website is still our big engine.
Mm-hmm.
It gets the most traffic. All the other mediums are I think feedback to the website. And what was great about these shows covering it is, boy, did I have a lot of traffic this week. And it was organic traffic. It wasn't like people were, and I could see the Google searches and the chat GPT.
And they came and they saw what you're good at.
Man, did I see it? Right? Like Ryan just said, Google Cigar Media in Crisis, and it came up, and I saw it. So yeah, it went back to the website. It didn't go back to a Coop video.
You got an SEO boost off that article for sure.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And we had to spend a lot on SEO. By the way, last 2 years ago, SEO was a weakness beyond belief. We were not doing good SEO. We've improved a lot. Now we've really started to embrace what ChatGPT is using. So a lot of the effort around SEO is going into ChatGPT and those types of engines. And those are like, that's why you do this type of analysis, because you have to kind of look at, and otherwise, if you just stay stagnant, then people fall. Then we're gonna fall off the map. Is what happens. I don't think anyone gave me credit in on those shows for the things we pivoted on that were mentioned in that article. Building a music show, building food reviews, increasing our accessories coverage. Those types of things were huge for us. We didn't expect the growth we had with that. But no one kind of looked at, so Coop pivoted in some other areas. No, by the way, he puts one food review up a week, and he's not really sacrificing the cigar content. So,
but I think you're a victim of your own circumstances, Will.
I think you're right.
Because you're good. You're not good. You weren't born in the darkness. Some of these people are fucking Bane. Some of these people, they were born in the mud. That's what they get their clicks from. That's what they get.
Yeah.
So, and you weren't. You're as pure as the driven snow.
No,
and
I
so
appreciate it.
that's what's good about you. That's what everybody loves about you.
Yeah.
So I think when you start to get a little bit spicy about an issue, then it brings out. That's what my father always said: don't argue with idiots because they drag you down to their level of
and everyone has a right to express their opinion. And I don't think anyone took I don't think anyone who talked about this, with one exception, who said something very false. But I don't think they tried to hit me. None of them tried to hit me below the belt.
No, they didn't take unfair shots.
There was a couple of people that clearly didn't read the article that said stuff or just made stuff up. But for the most part, I was fine with it. And it's funny because I didn't see any of this. Everyone brings it to me.
See, it boggles me because it's a 5-minute read for the article, like that somebody couldn't read it. But
and I don't want to say someone didn't read it. I think when I look, and I said at the beginning, the more I looked at this, I don't think I articulated the message well enough. So I don't point fingers saying, well, oh, you should have read the article. It's more like, yeah, I could have did a better job at this. And maybe now I go, Cigar Media in Crisis wasn't the best headline.
I think it was syntax. I think it was syntax that got you, Will.
I think you're right.
I think you bury the lead, sort of. That sentence that you read on this show, that's like saying no offense, but you got to fucking say it first.
I have to say it first.
And you didn't.
I did.
You said all the juice.
You needed to define.
By the way,
absolutely. When I go back and look at this, 100%. Am I apologetic for what I wrote? Absolutely not. I stand by everything I wrote.
Sure.
Would I have communicated it different? I was telling Ryan this. I said, Ryan, that was kind of like my point. I said, I have to look in the mirror, and I can't just. And I see other media outlets do this, and other people in life do this. They blame the finger. My dad, when he was alive, he said to me, when there's adversity, he said, and it may seem like everyone's ganging up on you, you still need to look in the mirror of what you could do better. And I've taken that advice, and I think I have to look in the mirror on that. So, yeah.
Well, I think the vote is out. You definitely fucked it. But you should have, but I think if you just said in the beginning, this is simply an analysis of the media space. I think that fair
Oh, you're
competition is
right. Oh, you're
important.
right. I didn't.
Then
I didn't expect
this
the
would have been a
reaction.
nothing burger. This would
I
have been a
didn't.
nothing burger.
It
But
would have been a nothing burger.
yeah,
In a
Did,
way, though, it kind of benefited you that you wrote it like this.
no,
so,
for
like,
sure,
I don't.
so
Yeah.
like,
for sure.
even though you didn't necessarily mean to write it like this, the fact that everybody took it as a, and it kind of blew it up to it's had a life of its own in the last fucking week. I mean,
Oh,
it
absolutely.
really has.
Great.
Like,
Great.
Like I
and
said, it wasn't intended. I'm not a clickbait guy, and I kind of feel bad. It's now a clickbait article when I go back and look at it. There'll be an op-ed that will come out at some point that I think I'll put an op-ed and kind of reframe this. But I don't think there's a need to do it now.
I think
'Cause
you should be honest with your next analysis that you do at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
And I think you should list a weakness. You should list a strength. And actually go through it. This way people can see it wasn't like you venting, but it was a complete breakdown. Obviously, don't list everything. Strength
panel
weakness that
show.
you would want. Yeah, do
Do
something.
a panel show doing a SWOT. Have
Yeah.
a whiteboard behind you and
It's a
let
great
other
idea.
members of the media do the SWOT with
That's
you.
a great
so that
idea,
I think
Jared.
that's a
That is
great
a
idea.
great idea. I love it.
All right,
That's
so
a
we'll
gr-
do that. No, I'm just kidding. That's
No,
my
we can't.
idea.
It's
That's
on
my
your show,
idea.
man.
No, don't stop.
We
Stop. I
don't know.
can't do anything like that.
We'll have to put you on it then, Brian.
I can't do anything like that.
We
at
haven't
all,
had you
man.
on, so yeah.
That's for you, brother. But no, so what do you want to see happen, Coop? I guess what was your intended outcome other than conveying the information of the Choice 5? What was the intent of the article?
The intent of the article was that the landscape of media has changed. We have more forces out there that we have to deal with, and I think what's happened is some brands have just decided the juice ain't worth the squeeze anymore to do it. And if you heard, and I heard a little bit of it on Matt's show, he talked a little about that without getting too specific, that ultimately there were other priorities outside of how about that cigar that took place. Because ultimately, Matt could have gone another 10 years. I mean, Matt was a gold standard show, in my opinion. I learned a lot from how to do a show and how to conduct myself from him. So that was really the intent there, was to say there's forces there now that makes it very difficult. And I think that, and a lot of people said, well, what about the influences? I put the influences under category 4, which was the media, by the way. There's a lot of, and they do a great job. There's a lot of different things. And I think a lot of people, they have to decide. A lot of people don't do news because, like I'm telling you, there's a low ROI on it.
It's also very hard. It's very
hard.
octopus connected with knowing the right people to get a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think where I think people have a problem. I'm an influencer. I've actually had this conversation with Kevin Shahan. I hate the term influencer. I can't deny it. We are all influencers inside the cigar media. Coop, you are an influencer. I think the more we're trying to like nitpick for this group's over here or this group's over here, I think that hurts us in the long run, in my opinion, because what is a podcaster? They are influencers, right? Regardless of what you want to take it or not. We're not Fox News. We're not CNN. We're not corporate media. Nobody hands out, even in corporate media, badges unless you work for the company, so it's hard to kind of segment out kind of different news categories to say, or media categories to say, which should be more popular or which should be more favored, per se. So what do you want to see then with the future of, are you taking steps to adapt to some of the criticisms that people were talking about? Obviously you are with creating new content around accessories and food, but I'm saying going above and beyond some of the news stuff.
We had to start partnering with retailers better. was a big thing, and we started doing that. So that was a big step. Starting to like basically work with retailers we know that will share information with us without getting them into trouble, because we're always sensitive. We don't want to get them into trouble, but we've worked on that area to do that. Um, we have basically some of the print stuff and the robber baron, the exclusivity stuff. Exclusivity is part of the game, but when we're excluded, there's exclusivity giving an early window, and then there's excluding. We basically say it has to be a two-way street. So if you're going to exclude us from PCA coverage, we can't maybe spend time going to a PCA booth. I mean, things like that. So that's not to be vengeful. It's we have to work smarter.
There's
Is what we
also
have.
over 100 brands at PCA, guys.
We can't.
Like,
And we're not
you
doing 100.
can't
We did.
do.
We're not doing 90 booths next year. That I will
Yeah.
say that. So we've done some steps with that. Um, the online, like we, as far as the other media brings go, I think we have very good relationships with most of the other media brands. Obviously yourself, we have a real like Half Wheel. I think we have a very good relationship with them. They do a great job. So we've partnered with, not partnered, but we have a very, we're competitors. But hey, I call them and ask them to come on the show and talk, and we have a great conversation. So and then sometimes something has to go to a competitor, and we can't get too bent out of shape on it. We understand there's relationships. There was one person in the cigar industry, right, who was giving stuff to Cigar Aficionado, and I went and talked to them. It's a big name, and I don't want to reveal the name and he said to me, "Coop, I love you like a brother, but I know the Cigar Aficionado guys for 32 years. He goes, I know you for 2 years." He says, "How would you feel if I knew you for 32 years and I suddenly broke a trust?" He goes, "What I will promise you is I will not exclude you. If you call me up and you want the information, you will get it." And that person kept his word. So there's things we've had to adapt like that instead of being like totally. We have to, again, it comes down to communication
So
with that. So
how do you think PCA should handle media going into? One of the comments on one of the shows that I saw was, and Jarrid, for you too, because you were just on the PCA board. Your term just went up, so this is out for you as well. Actually, we'll start with you on this one. Um, One of the comments or criticisms was, don't charge media or charge influencers to go. Don't allow anybody to walk up to a booth and go, "Here's my badge. What do I get for free?" So what's your take, being with PCA, on media and how that operates within the trade show?
I think PCA should justifiably be a source of competition for cigar media. I
yep,
think
I agree, and I agree with you, Jarrid. Yep.
it was a big miss in PCA's kind of arsenal, that their media arm wasn't as strong as it could have been, and I think Antoine has done a really good job of bringing that around and bringing PCA's media coverage into the kind of 21st century. I think that, and again, we talked about it a little bit. I think that I'm as a manufacturer, I'm happy to see media, and mostly because I know every single media person that's at PCA is in it for the love of the game. They showed up to PCA on their own dime, and they're getting coverage, and they're competing for space, and they don't want to be inconvenient in the booth while business is getting done, so they've got to come back 6 times. I've seen it. I mean, you do it to me. Like, I'm in a meeting, you can't talk, then I have 2 seconds to the side, and then you're like, "Hey, is now a good time?" No, but I can pencil out 15 minutes for you, or 20
And we
minutes
know
for
you're
you
going to do that,
in a half
and
hour. And
yeah,
we do it, right?
we do it. Yes.
We do it. But there's a lot of people that probably don't, because the reality is the PCA is, we're there to do business, right? But part of doing business is collaborating with all of the different marketing channels that exist, and media is one of them.
Yeah.
So I do think it's also our job to promote our product, and I think the media is doing it for us. So I think it's also our job to engage with them effectively. And some other people might be different than I am. I'm kind of a straight shooter when it comes to stuff like this. As Will has known me for a long time, Ryan's known me. That's true about me. I will, if you're Bob's Bumfuck Cigar Blog and you come in and you're sitting in my chair where a customer could sit, I'll be like, who is this guy? Get to my reps and get this guy out of here. I don't, you didn't ask permission. You didn't, you're not going to stick a microphone in my face while I'm having a meeting with an account to try to get some sort of clip or something like that. I'm not the one. So other brands, it might be a bigger problem for them, or time wasters or something like that might be a bigger problem. I'm sure that it's not just me that's doing that in the booth when one of these non-entities come in, really. But also, you never know who's going to be important to you, so you got to be fair to everybody and try to give people a chance. But if they do everything the right way, you should be respectful and give them the time of day, because I think we are fortunate to have the cigar media there on their own dime, covering and promoting our product. I think it's an important part of the way that the machine runs.
What about you, Coop? Who, in your opinion, should anybody that's got a website or a blog be allowed in for media?
No, and I think PCA has definitely taken some steps in the last couple of years to start vetting that. And you're not going to build Rome in a day with that. I've seen a lot of improvement in that area the last couple of years. Now, I have no problem with an influencer coming in there, by the way. If they're doing their job, they have a medium to do that. And but I have no problem paying. Now, they got rid of the media dues, and I believe now we get either 1 or 2 passes. And we actually now, since they got rid of media dues, I pay more, right? Because we get less free. We get 3. I pay more, and I don't have any issue with that. You know what? It costs money. This is a not-for-profit organization. You got to remember that. So other trade shows are a profit organization.
Correct.
This is a not-for-profit organization. So I have no problem. I paid my PCA dues COVID year, by the way, when they canceled the show.
Mm-hmm.
Other media members did not do that. We paid our dues that year. Guess what? That's not an inconsequential expense for me to do that, right? So
it was a big expense. It was a lot. It was hundreds of dollars a year.
We felt it was the right thing to do. And we kept it. And if this happened again, we would do the same thing. So I have no problem paying that. I don't think the fee's unreasonable. I think we're asking, guess what? We get to go to things like opening day. We get to go to the opening parties and things like that.
Yeah, because you're a good actor, right? Because you do shit like that. You pay your dues during COVID. You're a good actor, right? Yeah. And eliminating eliminating dues, paying memberships for the media allows PCA to curate who attends and who doesn't.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I do see is now PCA, I did see them walking around with a camera this year doing video interviews. Mm-hmm. That's their choice. But the problem is when you have other media outlets that don't have maybe a budget like mine, and I don't nearly have a budget that Half Wheel has. They have a huge budget, right? I'm just saying those are little factors that play into decisions if media is going to go to trade shows or how they're going to cover it. Again, it goes back to the competitive thing and the juice being worth the squeeze. And that's an individual choice that everyone has to make. Like we decided we had the same opportunity to get floor space like Half Wheel did. And we said it wasn't worth, we could not justify what we would get out of that to pay that type of money for floor space. But it's for them, it's worth it in their model. Our model, it wasn't worth it. So we don't begrudge that at all on that. So, everyone has to kind of evaluate that. Like I said, I think the one thing I'd like to see the PCA media do better is advocacy, because I read about all the advocacy on Half Wheel, and I shouldn't have to read about it all on Half Wheel. So that's really, where I would like to say it's a fair. Like I said, I should be consuming it from the trade organization. And I've had this conversation, like, why don't I cover this? I said,
and you know what, Will? It goes out every single advocacy. I bet you I get 4 emails a week in terms of PCA's advocacy. It goes out to dues-paying members.
It does go out to dues-paying members. And
that's why you don't. That's why you're not seeing it.
That's why I'm not saying. But guess what?
And that's a failure on PCA side.
Guess what?
For sure.
I could, excuse me, Jarrid. I could call Josh tomorrow, and probably get that fixed.
Absolutely. And
So I don't
and you
think
should.
so. It's not
And you should.
and I probably should actually. It's probably a good thing. And by the way, Josh has been, and Scott Pierce before him. Now Josh has been the most accessible person ever. I could just tell you this right now. In terms of media, thank God we have him as the CEO. And same with Scott, who did a great job. But Josh has even been better. I can message Josh at 11 o'clock at night, and I'll get a response from him at 11:05. And I did this when the whole tariff thing came in. And I really, because I had to get my arms around this, right? And he cleared up a major point for me at 11 o'clock at night, 5 minutes. I would have never gotten that with regimes before Scott Pierce. I'm telling you right now, we should be very grateful for the leaders, and the board has been, board members have done a great job supporting the executive staff there. So, and I think that started with your board, Josh, and I think the boards have been, and I know I could talk to board members. A lot of stuff I have to talk off the record with that type of stuff. I can't, but so again, I cannot complain about how PCA, because people need to go back to 2012 and 13.
Yeah,
To understand it.
you're 100% right. It was none of this existed.
Yeah.
Then. And that was one of the things that I'm most proud of. That when I was on the board is improving accessibility, and one of the big messages the whole time, the Best of the Leaf Awards, things like that happened during the time that I was on the board were all things designed to limit the ostracization of everybody in this industry. If you're a small shop, you can win Best of the Leaf. If you're because of the categories and the regions and stuff like that, it's not always the people with the giant social media reach that are going to win everything. And same with media. We want it to be more accessible. We wanted to communicate better. We wanted to control the messaging. That's why we hired Antoine. That's why all these different things have happened. So I'm happy to hear you recognize that stuff, because I do think Josh is doing an awesome job, and I think the board now is doing a great job.
Absolutely. Very interesting thing happened at the Leaf Awards. An award went to Leaf Master Dubai. And I was like, I scratched my head on it. But I went to Dubai and I met with Raid. And I was like, man, after meeting with him, seeing his operation, that was a great award they gave him, and it opened my eyes a lot that PCA is not just looking at this through a microscope. They have wide lenses here, and if you go out to Dubai, and by the way, I think the Dubai trade show is a very good thing. It's going to take a few years to grow, but I'm telling you, it was a brilliant move when you go to that market. And like I said, when I saw Raid's operation, it was wow. And I even told Raid, I was very honest with him. I said, yeah, I scratched my head when you got this. Now I'm seeing your operation. I'm glad they recognized you on this, because it should be recognized.
Premium Cigar, it's not Premium Cigars of America. It's Premium Cigar Association. So in my opinion, unless I'm wrong with that thought, Jarrid, that it's overall help of cigars worldwide.
But the more people that come to the trade show,
exactly, that's what I'm saying. So
the more value the organization adds to the manufacturer.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
let the global guys come in. Let the Germany guys come in. I mean, that's been a huge market for a lot of U.S. companies over the last couple of years. Is Germany and the European market.
My number one international market. So I met like my distributor in the UK. I did 2 weeks with them this year. I did a ton of events. They've grown into a really important part of our business, our international business portfolio.
Yep.
We opened them at PCA. They came. They had an international membership. They attended. We met with them in our booth at PCA, and now they're one of our most important international markets. And it all happened because of PCA. So the more, again, demonstrating stakeholder value, right? Like the more that PCA can do to demonstrate value to its largest stakeholders, which by far are the manufacturers. I think the people that rely on them the most are the retailers, and it is a retailer organization for sure. Yeah. But the largest subsidiaries of it is it's not membership dues. It's the manufacturers. Yep. Agree. So I think the more they can do to demonstrate stakeholder value, the better for everybody.
Yeah, and like I said, I think some of the programs Josh put in place, they're not going to be overnight. And he was very transparent with PCA Alliance with me when we interviewed him. But he's going for the long-term play here, and that's I get that. And you know what? PCA should never be in a position again what happened in 2020 when they couldn't have a trade show.
Correct.
And I
No,
think they should,
you're right.
because it cut the revenue stream off, and unfortunately Scott, who would come into the job, inherited that. So they had to make a lot of these are good decisions that are being made, is what I'm saying, to
Hedge.
really strengthen this organization, because who knows if this it could happen again. You know, there could be another pandemic with something. So
Now
you know,
I know I don't. Coop, you are welcome to take off as whatever you would like. You could stay
yeah.
as long as you would like. There's no out for you at all. But
Stay.
I am
I
curious.
have to do my
though.
show, and I have to do
I
my show as the issue. Yeah.
Okay.
I am curious. Would you want it to go back to New Orleans? Honestly,
Yes.
do you want it to go back to New Orleans, or do you want Vegas?
New Orleans.
Is it because it's closer for you?
I think it proved that there's an alternate location, and I think what we saw this year was a lot of people went to this trade show from the East that probably
Mm-hmm.
weren't going to Vegas. I think ultimately, if you have two sites, and then I would say go 3 years on, 3 years off, something like that, I think it makes it a
The
little better.
venue was great. The weather was great. The parties were great. It was a
They,
good. It
they,
was a well done trade show.
and
really
it was well executed, and it was well planned, and you could see it was well planned. And now I'm curious what Josh is going to do and the team's going to do in 2027 when it goes back to Vegas. I could see some of the issues I had with Vegas. I guarantee you they're already on top of this stuff.
I just had a board call this week on Tuesday, and
Yeah.
talking about venues for parties and cool stuff to do
Yeah,
and things
yeah,
like that in
yeah.
Vegas.
There's
Site visits
plan-
already happening.
The
So-
planning is So I think New Orleans was great because I could drive to that trade show. We had I think it was a very different experience than we had 10 years earlier in New Orleans, which was not a good trade show.
That was not good at all.
That was not, because it wasn't well planned, and it wasn't well planned. This was much better planned, and you could see it. I think the weather cooperated, but you know what? I know from talking to PCA people that if it rained, there were contingencies, and we
Yeah,
would have been fine.
Yeah.
So the weather was unbelievable, and we lucked out with that. And it was. And by the way, I think New Orleans. I know there was a terrorist attack there. I think that city was a lot of things were cleaned up. The other thing that I thought was the best thing in New Orleans, right? Everyone was talking about the French Quarter Festival, how this was going to be a disaster. We're in the middle of the French Quarter Festival. We're not going to be able to get hotel rooms. Guess what? We got hotel rooms. We got houses. And guess what? On top of that, the French Quarter Festival added a whole element to being in New Orleans that we actually focused a lot on in our pre-coverage, because we got to see the culture. We got to see a cultural aspect, which I thought was really cool to be a part of.
And you don't get that in Vegas.
Well,
Vegas
You don't
is
get that- you don't get that in Vegas.
cultureless wasteland.
I
Yeah.
also heard that a lot of people love the fact that they could have they Airbnb'd a couple blocks away versus
We did that.
in Vegas. You're not Airbnb'd anywhere close to the strip. I can tell you
Yeah.
that.
Well,
So like
we
there's
had,
a
we
huge
had a
advantage
little
for
help
that.
from the Kristoff team. Jason Robnott knows that city inside
Oh,
now,
yeah.
and he really worked with us to get some good, be in a good neighborhood, good location, and we have to thank Jason for that as well. He was a big help for us with that. And that stuff, if people asked us, other media outlets, hey, what to do, we'd help them out with that as well. So
What do you what are I want to ask you this question, but I know you won't answer it because it'll give away some of the stuff that you do.
yeah.
But what are some brands that were on your radar this year that surprised you, or brands that weren't on your radar this year coming into the end of the year that surprised you?
We were I'll answer it. We uncovered a couple
I just didn't
of
want to get into your top 20. I was trying to
No,
rephrase it.
no, it's not that. Because I don't know if it will. This really didn't affect, but in terms of like when we were at the trade show, we found a couple of really new companies that really surprised us. And Stoic Cigars was one. Chamali Cigars was another. We got a lot of traffic off those booth coverages. Fuente surprised everyone with the amount of stuff they had at the booth this year. It's a so the Fuente was a huge surprise. DuPont had well, let me back up. Fuente was collaborating with a lot of people this year at the trade show, whether it was DuPont, whether it was Drew Estate, They Fuente felt that the Fuente presence was felt at this trade show this year. You had an unbelievable launch at the Perdomo booth with Legacy, and
Legacy,
I'm just
yeah.
telling, we got to the we couldn't even get there in the first hour because it was so crowded. And the fact that they gave us time on day one, we were like grateful. I'm just saying, and that was a massive launch that they did. And they, guess what? They held the packaging back till the trade show opened. So we saw a lot of good things as far as that goes. With that, I think Altadis really had a good boost this year. They're kind of back in full force right now.
What was a
Uh,
newer brand that you were really loving on?
the one I think Stoic Cigars was the one.
Stoic.
Stoic, that's Vance Taylor's brand, which we didn't actually. We visited the guys visited the booth, but I don't know why the video wasn't shot from them. And they came out of that saying, "You guys got to check this out. This is a brand being done by Klaus Kellner, and there's some really good. It's a good small brand. I think he's got a great starting point to go ahead and do some things. So we didn't expect. That's a brand we didn't expect to see take off like it did.
Well, I want to get out to the PCA at some point in time, but like I said, I don't do hard news. I don't do news. Like for me, I would feel like that guy walking around like looking for something to do. Yeah, I would be interviewing, but like that's not really my forte. That's not what this show necessarily is about. And I would take the opportunity to do it. So here and kind of wrapping all of that up, Coop.
Hmm.
What do you want anybody misreading the article to really understand about it?
It was not a complaining session. And if there's something in that article that was perceived as complaining, I want to know about it. Give me a specific day. I think there was one, like the comment you made about being part of a KMH. At least that was something that was said that was, a valid,
That
a
was a
valid.
valid criticism.
It was a valid
100%.
criticism. But if there was something that basically that felt like I felt the world it was unfair, or I'm complaining and it should go back to the old way, I'd like to have that identified. I would have liked to have said had a call with someone. I don't have to be a podcast on a podcast explaining. Hey, just give me your thoughts on this, and I would have gave the thoughts on it. So those are like I said. I think the article was misunderstood more because, like I said, we talked about it. It could have been framed differently, and if I had to do it again, I'd frame it completely different. Um, so, but like I said, it was not a complaint. And I think the other thing is that a lot of the other shows went on some other. They identified other areas that weren't really even covered in the article. So
They did. They added to it, and I think you got wrapped up in them adding to it and got blamed for their add-ons.
yes, and I did, and that's okay. I don't take it personal because I don't think it was. I don't think it was. I don't think most of those guys were malicious.
So
So
where
I think you said our job is getting harder.
Mhm,
We have to get smarter and more competitive, and
mhm.
everybody took offense to it at the same
and
time.
guess what? Yeah,
They
yeah,
you
and oh
held
yeah,
up
people.
a mirror and they didn't like it.
They
They didn't like it.
didn't. They didn't.
Yeah,
They didn't at all. And
yeah,
and ev- my thing is like everybody wants to feel super important. Everybody wants that produces this content wants all the views they can get. And I feel like sometimes infighting ends up hurting
yeah,
versus growing or people even learning from an opportunity, because infighting oftentimes
yeah.
creates big bitterness between it. Now it's, well, how you give them it first, look what they said about me, or how do I give, now it becomes manufacturers being pitted against other forms of media. Jarrid, have you ever felt like that inside where it's like you have a kid, well, okay, you personally no, but from how you have seen, like, do you see media manufacturers like specifically only releasing to media because they're friends with them and leaving out critical media from that?
I don't I don't I don't know. I see people doing exclusivity bec- because of financial for financial reasons. Like people uh, uh, you know doing exclusivity with two guys and doing a show about it on Cigar Authority. That is
That's totally
financially
different.
expedient.
And it's different. It's not
and
really a place we're looking to play in either for us.
right. Doing it in doing it exclusivity with Cigar Aficionado, it could be what you said, Coop, that they have really long relationships. It could be because they're trying to carve out a place on the list.
Yeah.
It could be any number of things, you
Yeah.
know. And to be clear, like when I say, you know, you held up a mirror to them, I don't know who them are. I just want to be very clear about that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a good consumer of media. I admittedly, that's part of the problem. I think that you're identifying, Coop, is that we don't understand enough of the value because we don't observe enough of it, right? I think there are some actors in the business, some manufacturers that are really, really good, and they interact and engage with the media all the time, and they get the benefits commensurate with that. I am not one of those people. So I just want to say, if I don't know what people said about this article, I don't know who might have said anything about this article, if anyone, but I'm just commenting on what I hear.
Yeah, there was only one part where someone just blatantly said some stuff that wasn't true. It was just one group that said that, and that was it. Which I didn't quite. I don't understand.
You can tell me off. You can tell me.
I'll tell you guys offline on that. Yeah, but otherwise, you know, in the end, if I'm publishing something or if I'm saying something on a podcast, I got to be accountable for what I say. I can't like say, "Wow, you know, that's what, I can't point the finger at someone else. You didn't quite understand it." I have to look at, this is where I look at the reflection. I have to do a better job next time. That's what I need to do. And I'm not afraid to say that. So
see, that's what I like also about talking with you too, Coop, is the article. I feel people felt attacked, but that wasn't your fault. That also wasn't what you originally intent of it to do.
Yeah.
How people feel, you can't control that. But one of the things that I liked about it was the fact that it was honest. I would have liked to have seen a little bit either that sentence like Jarrid said at the front.
Totally.
Because I feel people just read the reasons and stopped there. But I think what you just said now is something that I don't hear from a lot of other medias. I need to be better. I need to get better versus the manufacturers need to be better at getting what I need. And so I appreciate that you said that, because in some of the other stuff I've been watching or heard other complaints over the years of doing this, it's, manufacturers aren't getting us this stuff. And I like
I don't have to do shit.
That's what I'm saying. I like the fact that said that was honest.
But I should. And it's incumbent upon the media to make us want to do it.
Yeah.
I've got to feel like if I don't send Cigar-Coop a press release, I'm like, oh fuck, I've really missed an opportunity to get an audience there. I've got to, you know what I mean? I've really got if the media makes us feel that way, then we're going to be better at doing it.
That's what we all do. That's what we all can do here.
Yeah. It's you ring the bell, we do the thing. You got to fucking ring the bell in order for us to do the thing. So
I agree. We all can learn, yeah.
And it's getting better. That's going to do that. You know, I don't know specifically what it is, but doing an analysis of it and talking about it and having a big conversation about it is probably a good place to start.
It was honest. It was honest in the article.
Like I said, it was honest, and I will, if anyone says these are not like competitive threats, I'd be curious to see why. I'm curious on that too, because I'm certainly, like I said, I'm fallible. I'm not infallible here, so yeah, I'm fallible here. So there's certainly things that maybe I missed. I just didn't see that in any of the shows that really say, it was more like, oh, he's bitching again.
See, and that's where I agree with Jarrid.
And I have done my share of bitching, so that's a little bit,
That first sentence put in front of would have maybe curtailed some of that. I never looked at it as you were bitching. I just looked at it as you were mapping out an understanding of what else your competition is,
and what people were facing, and what people were facing who got out.
It's valid.
Right, and there's probably other reasons that all these sites had why they shut down that are probably not even covered in that article. That's the other part of the grid, the strengths and weaknesses. I'm sure they assessed, maybe not formally, but I'm sure they looked at that too. So that's why I said, and some people may not see opportunities to do what I did because it's not, it doesn't fit in their model. we're constantly compared to Half Wheel, which is a little bit of a problem because we're a very different site than Half Wheel. I'll tell everybody. So we operate very differently. We cover things very differently.
I don't
But
think it's a
it
I
works
don't think it's a
great for them.
problem.
It works great for them. But does Half Wheel do some of the things we do? They do not do some of the things we do. So we're a very different site. And I get that a couple of things. Well, I said, well, go to Half Wheel is my answer. They do a great job.
It's
And look,
great to benchmark
and
against
by the way,
people
they
who
make
are great.
everybody do their job better. They
Yeah,
make everybody do their job better, and hopefully in the end we win with that. That's not a threat in that case. Maybe that's a good example of something that's not a threat.
Now
no, it's a bellwether.
the other side of it too is your pull too. If I would have written something like that, it would have fell by the wayside. Nobody would have put two sentences after it.
A
Your
pot,
reach, you put an article out like that, like that gets that. So regardless, like you and I talked about, all news, all attention's good attention.
yeah.
So like that in it itself, I think I don't know that I would have seen Charlie put out something that introspective on the what attacks and what other stuff comes up with media.
Well,
That's something that you think about. Those that know you, that talk to you, know that you're always thinking about stuff like that.
yeah, and Charlie every year puts out the consensus, and if you read his editorial on the consensus, it's pretty scathing every year. So,
Hmm.
but it gets buried with the consensus, so it doesn't. People don't really see that part of it. But he puts out the consensus, and then he has some analysis of the consensus, and he can be pretty tough on there too. But it's like I said, he doesn't frame it at the beginning saying this list is bullshit because of blah blah blah. He at the end he says, well, there's some weird things that have happened, and I've talked to Charlie on some of the strange things that I've seen happen on the consensus, and he's just analyzing. He's not saying it's right or wrong.
So where do you both see this cigar media world? Because both of you have seen it from almost from its inception as how it looks now, previous to this, and kind of its growth. You guys have been part of it, or at least have witnessed
Yeah.
to it. Where do you see 5 years from now? Do you see cigar media being a thing? Do you see this as being viable from now, or is it gonna, with the apprehension of AI, is things just gonna be easier to get? Like, does that make sense? That question?
Yeah. I think it will still be around. I think we've had to learn. Like, a big thing is with AI, for example, we have to learn to play with AI, and that's something we've been focusing on this year. So it will evolve. It's not going to go away. We're not going away. I'll probably be doing this at least another 10 years, right? I'll be 67 by the time I hit 25 years. So, a lot can happen between now and then. I'll be much older. So
I think there'll
um,
always be a market for the inside baseball. I think what Coop is
there's
good at
always a
is
market
inside
for,
baseball,
yeah.
and I think that's your niche
Mm-hmm.
is inside baseball, Coop. And I think that you pulling back the curtain on cigar media is what people watch you for,
Correct.
because it's inside baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
The layperson, the guy who goes in and grabs 5 cigars and goes home with them, doesn't give a shit about that
Nope.
article that you wrote.
You're right.
But
You're
it's
100% right.
inside baseball. That's what people come to
Yeah.
you for, anyways, and that's why people are talking about it, because that's what you're known
Yeah.
for. So
Yeah.
I think that cigar media is going to continue. I think that everybody's got to get better. I think manufacturers have to get better as the world is smaller with engaging with consumers. I think cigar media is going to have to get better. I think retailers are going to have to get better to compete. Um,
Absolutely.
to compete for register rings and for customer count. I think that that's a metric that's going to be really important going forward. So I think as everybody gets better, it's a rising tide, right? So I think you're going to have more competition than ever as manufacturers try to do what they can
Yep.
to own the eyeballs of their consumers, and retailers try to do the same thing. But
Agreed.
it's going to make everyone better.
Now,
Totally agree.
I only have you for a few more minutes, Coop, but I wanted to touch on something that you and I talked about a little earlier, and actually Jarrid and I did too. Do you think we'll ever get to a spot where we actually have an investigative journalist side within cigar media, to where some of the bad actors that, pulling back Oz's curtain over the last 5 years, we know there are bad actors, just like there is in every vertical of every job, period. But do you ever think that cigar media will actually go after and tell some of these stories?
I don't think so.
Why?
Because unless someone comes in with the sole purpose of that's going to be their mission, it is a lot of work to do investigative journalism.
And they'll get no cooperation.
They'll get no cooperation, and
if you're the guy that shit dicks people, you'll get no cooperation.
So a lot of stuff. There was a couple of things that were brought to me that were legal issues. Okay, just basically involving court stuff, and I have to be real careful that I don't misrepresent that, and I'm not a legal person to do that. So
that's the juice not worth the squeeze.
That's where so I have to be cognizant of I could get I could slander someone, and if I'm not I can't be 99% right. I have to be 100% right. So I do think someone could come along and do invest. And I've seen a couple people in Europe try to do it, but they don't do a good job. I see that. I see it very, not thorough. I mean, the big one that came to me was the whole guy there's a guy who's on the run who allegedly owns a piece of Habanos, right? And he's wanted by authorities, but I can't confirm that he actually owns Habanos, so I'm not touching it, right? Because this is someone's life here, and I have to. We're innocent until proven guilty in this country. And there's a lot I'd have to do, and to Jarrid's point, a lot of people aren't going to talk on stuff. So, I don't think we'll see it. Halfwheel's done a little bit of investigative journalism, but not at the personal company level. I would say they don't do it. They do it more at the trend level. So
I think somebody who's been wronged, if they came out and went to a media site and said, like, look, this is what happened to me with this thing or with this person, I think that might have a chance to grow some legs and spur and spawn some more investigation. But I think there would have to be like I don't know, like a whistleblower. Yeah, but I don't know if enough of that shit.
If someone gets indicted, we'll cover that.
Yeah.
Trademarks are another thing. Trademarks are very, very complicated cases. And about 2 years ago, I made the decision: no more trademark.
Because you're about every year there's at least a lawsuit, or was it the X lawsuit with CAO and Fuente? Was that even settled yet?
I heard it was, but I don't know all the details.
That was like 3 years in the making.
Well, because it never got to a point. It was settled between the parties behind closed doors.
Okay.
The problem is that there was one party that put out a press release on it.
Yes.
So
yes.
And we chose not, and we did not cover it, not because of my relationship with Fuente. It was if we can't get a comment from the other side, it's like, I don't know. We have to, then it looks like we're playing favorites.
Or you're stirring the pot. Your goal as news is not to stir the pot, it's to present both sides if both sides are willing to give you that ability.
Yeah, the Cohiba thing right now, the Cohiba battle, we've done a little bit of that, but not, again, it's so complicated, that stuff, and it involves a lot of cycles that I'd have to, and I'm not doing this full time. So someone would have to really do this full time to do that type of diligence, to do it correctly.
And then what do you get?
Yeah.
At the end, say you're right and you write the best expose on blah.
You just lost everything.
What do you get?
Exactly.
Nobody ever talks to you again?
Yeah, right. So, and our mission is to cover products in the cigar industry for the most part. Like, we're a product driven. That's what we cover. We cover products. We do talk to the personalities behind it. But I've had a couple of guests where they said, we can't talk about this. Please don't ask us about something. And usually I know to ask the question ahead of time and not surprise them on the air. So, but there's a few things we've had to do that. And actually, especially with a lot of stuff in Nicaragua, we have to be really sensitive with the Nicaragua stuff, what's going on there, because I want to be able to get into the country and cover them, So we have to be very fair. We have to be as fair as possible here. Not to say, we don't have an opinion on it, but there's things we just have to take.
Also, you have to let the people that are doing the work do the work.
Yeah.
The messaging has to be controlled by the people the stakeholders.
Which so far it has not been controlled or put out correctly.
The process, but if you haven't heard anything, it's because there's back channeling, there's stuff going on that's going to be germane to the issue. It's not the prerogative of anybody to come out until the industry associations come out with what the statement should be.
Right, and we Josh explained this really well recently. He said, "Look, we can't grassroots everything. Sometimes there's ramifications with that. Doesn't mean we're not doing something, right?" And I thought that was a very good statement he put out on the recent tariff thing involving Nicaragua. So I guarantee you he's working 1 o'clock in the morning on stuff. Is what I'm saying.
There was just an all hands meeting at TAA about this with every manufacturer in the building. It is being worked on. It is important. Everyone knows it's important, but messaging should come from the people who craft the messages.
And the hard part about the tariffs with cigars, Dominican, that's not their number one export cigars. Honduras, that's not their number one export. The hard part is you've got to make the tariff hurt to affect some kind of a change that's wanted. Cigars can't be carved out because it is their number one export, is cigars.
These are problems, and these are problems that are bigger problems
than what most people are even talking about. And I'm a political junkie. Right. I follow this stuff. I just don't talk about it publicly. But I watch people's excuses for why all this is happening, and they're wrong. Like the vast majority of the time, they miss the boat. As far as because it's the backdoor stuff that's the issue. It's not the frontal stuff. It's not the child labor. It's not it's the backdoor security stuff that a lot of this is playing into why the tariffs are coming into play. But you can't have carve outs for the number one crop of the country and expect change. Would you say that's fair?
Fair.
So, I mean, that's. Do you think these are actually going to go through? Because this is a good question for you, Coop. SCOTUS destroys Trump's tariff efforts and says, no, it's got to be more along the lines of if you declare war because we get attacked, you get 90 days or 120 days, and then Congress got to approve. If they go that route, these tariffs are moot, right?
Well, the recent tariffs, no. The thing that they're talking about with Nicaragua, the 100% thing, no. That's a separate thing.
You don't think that would apply to that?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Is it because of the Chinese investment coming through?
It's because there's a law. There's a trade law on the books with that, so it's a little different. That's embedded in a trade law. The Supreme Court case has it's more about it's not really related to tariffs are fair or unfair. It's more over the power to issue those tariffs.
Correct, as like a long-term thing where they don't go away.
But this is not the Nicaraguan thing doesn't have to do
it's
with
very
Trump's. It's not economic policy.
Correct. It's security.
By the way, this started under the Biden administration too. You got to remember that investigation started before there was any talk of these tariffs coming into place with the economic ones. So that's a different. The Supreme Court's not going to affect this thing that's happening with the 100%. That's a different thing, and they have to tread very lightly because there's very sensitive issues we're dealing with there.
So do you think we are going to actually see it then?
I don't know. I don't have a good feel. We could see some. Do I see? I have no clue on this one. I got to be honest with you. It's beyond my pay grade.
What does your gut tell you?
My gut tells me something will happen. But it won't be an exemption. I can tell you that.
No, I don't think it'll be an exemption.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I think something like they could put up the tariff higher. They don't have to go to 100. They recommended 100, but we'll see what happens. How they respond to the comment period at the end of the month. So, I don't have a good feel with this one to even gut. My gut tells me something will happen.
Yeah, it's just what. What do you think, Jarrid? I know most of your most 90+% of your production's out of the DR, so this really wouldn't affect a whole lot from you. But what do you think? How do you think this is going to turn out?
I think something is going to happen.
Yeah. Yes. And by the way, this affects the trade agreements between those countries too. So there's a lot. It does affect the Dominican.
It's very, very complicated.
It's very This is
very complicated. The issues that what people think it's about, it's not really about, and it's complicated. But I would be surprised. I'll put it this way: I'll be surprised if this is resolved in a way that doesn't result in some sort of punitive tax.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
I will have to bolt
Yes,
here.
Coop. Thank you so much, man, for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time and kind of
Thank you,
diving
guys. I
into that
appreciate the
article.
opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you very much for spending the start of your night with us. And everybody, right after the show, go check out Cigar Coop. And I don't know if he'll talk about this or not, but you'll
No,
learn a lot
we're
of
gonna be talking.
news.
We're talking a small batch cigar, so it'll be pretty cool.
There you
We haven't
go.
had that on. So we'll be a little lighter, but I think we may touch on California with those guys because that affects them. So we may probably touch on that piece a bit.
Awesome, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Coop, you always have a home here. Thank you so much for coming on,
Thank
brother.
you, guys.
Really
Jarrid,
appreciate
thank you as well. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Coop. Good to
Take
see
care.
you.
We'll
All
see
right,
ya.
guys. Have a
Okay,
good
bye.
one.
You too. All right, Jarrid, that was interesting. That was I think it was an interesting start to the show, and it stuff like that is, I think, taken out of context often, and I also think the media has a tendency to kind of eat its own, right?
Mhm.
Like they devour themselves like they're actual competitors when they are, but it's too small of an industry to be real competitors in the media market because we all kind of have our own little niche.
Yeah, you would hope everybody has their own niche, but the reality is there's only so many eyeballs. There's only so many people interested in this sort of content, and they have favorites. They engage with their favorites, and I think it's really important to do what you can to be more competitive. So I think looking at it the way that Will was looking at it, I think is a good measurable, actionable way of doing it. And you know, I think the cigar business gets a pass a lot of the times because, like you said, it's a small business, and it gets a pass because of the nature of the product, and it's a relaxing, fun kind of best part of your day kind of product. But the people that don't treat it like a business complain about being left behind
Correct.
all the time. I just saw today some guy writing like pages and pages on comments and stuff to the point where I had to unfollow it, but about complaining about why they're not getting what they deserve or something. I don't even know what it was. I don't even know who the person was. And it's like, how about the best ability is accountability, you know,
For
like
sure.
it's you have to, if you stop looking in the mirror and your competition stays looking in the mirror, then you're going to get left behind, and that's
Yeah.
the reality of the
What let your aptitude show everything.
Yeah.
It's really
Yep.
one of my favorite comments, or one of my favorite quotes from Zig Ziglar. I'm sure you know who he is.
Mhm.
Let your aptitude, not your attitude, determine your altitude. There's a lot of tudes in that one, but
Yeah.
let your aptitude, not your attitude, determine your altitude.
That's right.
And I think that's a good one. So here in the last little bit of the show here, I want to kind of talk about what Kristoff. Do you guys have any spring releases? Do you have any first of the year releases that you could share with us, or anything coming up for next year?
You know, we'll have a PCA exclusive. We've been doing that.
Mhm.
It effectively constitutes a donation to the organization, which is important to us for the, like we were talking about earlier, the advocacy and stuff. So that's the big thing that we're working on, is the PCA exclusive. Really, the project remains the getting the new packaging out in a meaningful way onto all the retailer shelves. You know, it's half. You know, now it's almost like worse, because it's like half. Now we got half old packaging.
I was
half new
gonna say,
packaging.
yeah.
This is like the awkward teenage years, right? So we've got to get this new packaging out there. We're doing a good job of it, but we've got to continue through our outside sales team, making sure that the new packaging, the new look, is on the shelves, and that the old stuff is sold. So
Do you think you'll get to a point where you're just so fed up of the old packaging, seeing it still out there, that you'll offer to buy it back and replace it with the new stuff?
No. It's we have to sell it. What am I going to do if I buy it back? You know what I mean?
Well, I
I've
would just
gotta-
say, just for visual sake, just to get everything off, or if you
I'd
have a
rather
company
use it to
that's got
promote.
like,
I'd rather use old stock to promote, replace it, you know, place an order, replace it with the new new packaging. We'll use the old stuff to do an event or an ongoing promotion for a month or something like that, and get it out that way if they have that much of an inventory liability. But if our sales reps are doing their job, which they are, then that liability won't exist in most stores.
And how are you using AI going forward within Kristoff for streamlining, or obviously not blending, even though I've seen, I think I even sent you that article about the AI blended cigar. Absolute joke. But how are you seeing AI changing Kristoff's trajectory?
Well, we used to, the barrier to entry for like doing better, like it kind of touches on what we're talking about here. Getting better media, getting better social media. And we haven't really, because again, the operation of the business is what I'm primarily focused on. And it would be great if I had the time to spend on really revamping and coming up with a really solid social media strategy and stuff like that. I just haven't had the time with between travel and the actual performance of my job duties. But I do think social media is part of it, you know? So what I would like to see this upcoming year, to kind of answer your question, the barrier to entry for a lot of those things, good crafted media, planograms, good promotional flyers, good promotional material, period, has been, we are not graphic designers, and we would have to commission a graphic designer. The other barrier to entry is like when we were doing the new packaging. There's a lot of stuff that would come across our desk for approvals from our graphic designer, and it would be like, okay, I don't like it. And they would be like, well, what would you like me to change? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a fucking graphic designer. Like
I just know
I don't like the way it looks. I don't like the way it looks graphically. Does that help you? Like so I don't have, Glenn is much more aesthetically minded, and he's got a better eye for this stuff, for design and sort of those kind of things. But you know, they would send me something and it would be like, I don't like it. And they're like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't like the way it looks. So that's been the barrier to entry for doing better on social media, doing better marketing stuff, things like that. I think AI has made it to where, and again, I'm still kind of fudding around doing it, but I needed a planogram the other day for an account, and I was able to use between Leonardo and Canva and ChatGPT, I was able to piece together this planogram, which before we had to pay, you know, somebody to do because we don't have the skill set, right? So doing little tasks and kind of eating the elephant one bite at a time is a good way for us to start integrating some of these tools. But man, it's really it's really powerful, and we've got to get better at it. We've got to get smarter with it, and we've got to find a way that you know, it can be more impactful to our business, because it's impacting a lot of businesses positively.
Well, how do you would your salespeople come up to you? Because you know, my company, the company I work for, is developing a lot of this stuff. We use it all day long. When your salespeople come up to you and ask, "Hey, can we do this with an AI?" What's typically your response? Is, "Yeah, sure, go do it," or is it, "No, let's try to do it this way"? Or are you open to that?
I'm fine with, like, I know one of our reps does our social media, Lewis, now, and it's largely just reposting stuff we're tagged in, or if a good picture comes through from the salespeople or something like that, it gets posted. But it's not entirely deliberate, and it's certainly not curated new content that we're generating. But he's been using AI tools to do these, you know, promotional stuff and things like that. So I'm generally, like, one of the questions that I love to ask every year when I do the account reviews with my sales guys and gals is, what are you really good at that you would love to do for Kristoff that you don't currently do for us? And I've gotten a lot of cool stuff back, whether it's web design and our website got redid, or social media, or photography, or and any of the copywriting, any of these kind of talents, hidden talents that the sales staff might have had that they always wished that they could incorporate into their professional life, but I've never actually been able to do. And we've been able to do some of that, you know. So
That's great. Like
yeah,
that means a lot to an employee that you even ask that question. You mean to tell me I could love my job and love what I literally do what I love to do outside of my job? I could do it for my job. Like there's a lot of companies out there that wouldn't ask that question because they would just go and hire somebody to do it. And somebody that might have been working for 5 years ago, well, I could have done that for you, you know.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
like that. You're finding hidden talents and utilizing those.
And bandwidth. The bandwidth is kind of always a problem. You know, I travel a lot. Our COO Ward, who's my kind of partner and everything, is really he's really busy with the day-to-day operation of the business. Glenn is really busy between travel and product development and his life, and so there's bandwidth is always a problem, and allowing the reps to do something that they're passionate about or interested in. Um, Also kind of take stuff off of our plates too. So
And it
when
makes
you're
them a stickier employee. It makes them feel more
absolutely,
valuable. It also gives them. I built that. Like I remember going around Chicago with my dad, who was an engineer. Like I put in the ventilation unit in that building. I did this. Just driving around town with my uncle, different schools. He's like, I put in all the shades in these school systems right here. All of the. So it's also kind of that ownership over it too. Is I redid this for you. I had a stake in the growth of the business outside of just selling a cigar.
yeah, absolutely. And in a small business or a medium-sized business, like it's all everybody does everything, right? There's no there's no sharply defined roles. I don't think everybody has to do everything, and everybody has to be a little bit good at everything. So we lean on our people, and our people lean back, and that's all you can hope for.
So as you're wrapping up 2025, how was it for you?
So this year was a challenge. You had trade shows out of cycle.
Hmm.
You had kind of different things that you're up against. Also, I think that the economy is kind of pulling back a little bit, which is the first time in probably the last 3 to 5 years that we've
Yep.
experienced that.
Yep.
Um, so this was a fight. This year was a fight to deliver the result that we want. But we were up last quarter, and we're continuing to push to the end of the year. Who knows? The holiday season could be excellent. It could be not excellent, but who knows? We just rely on the fact that we have the right people in place doing the right things at the right times, and that the retailers are going to respond well, um, and that the economy gives us what we need. Frees up some money for the consumers, and kind of gets them moving in the right direction too. So, in spite of what could have been a super super difficult year, I'm pretty happy with the result, if I'm being honest.
Now, as we're closing the show here, I want to kind of just ask you a fun little question. You've traveled a fuck ton this year overseas.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned you've been overseas more than you've probably been around the country as far as overall travel. Have you been any places fun overseas that like you've taken some time to visit some locations that you wanted to see? Where have you been able to take some Jarrid time?
Yeah, I'm super bad at Jarrid time. My wife will tell you
I know
better
you
better
are.
than anybody that I'm really really bad at that. But she to her credit, and she's excellent at this, holding my feet to the fire. If I'm going somewhere cool, she wants to go there. So I did. If I'm going to Antarctica, she's not interested in that trip. But so I went to the United Kingdom for 2 weeks to work with our distributor there this year, and the first week was 6 days in central London. Event. I got to do an event at James J. Fox, which is
Oh,
incredible experience.
historical. Yeah.
Yeah, the 250 years old or
Yep.
something like that. Winston Churchill's tobacconist. I got to sit
Hmm.
in Winston Churchill's smoking chair,
Yep.
and they did a ticketed event in the Havana Lounge upstairs for me at James J. Fox. So that was one of those like kind of seminal moments in my career where I'm like, you kind of look around and you're like, what am I doing here in a suit, sitting in Winston Churchill's chair, smoking a cigar? That was a cool moment for me. But after those 6 days, my wife flew in on Saturday. And my distributors, Barker's of Harrogate, huge shout out. They're absolutely unbelievable. They did such a good job of balancing work and the time when I was there with my wife working. And the first day, you will appreciate this. My wife lands, we're in London. The next day we get on a train. We get on a 3-hour train for me to go do a podcast in North Yorkshire or something, or
wow.
whatever, somewhere Britishy. And so I had to do the first thing I did with my wife was she had to sit there and listen to me do a fucking podcast talking about cigars. And I was like, she was like, is this what this is going to be? And I'm like, no, I promise you. They told me, they took care of it, but it was literally the first thing we did. Monday morning, wake up, get on a train and go do a podcast. And so she was like, come on, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, no, don't worry about it. They're doing good. So we went to the walled city of York. We had a day there on our own recognizance. They booked us a really cool hotel. We got to see Windsor Castle. We got to see everything. And then the last few days we were in central London on our own recognizance, and we stayed right next to in Victoria, right next to Buckingham Palace. And my wife and I got to walk around. We got to do all the sightseeing, see everything that we wanted to see. So, and then we got to spend some time in the North Country where our distributors are from, in Harrogate, with some excellent retailers there, with some and some good personal time, like relaxing in the North Country. So, absolutely 10 out of 10, like unbelievable experience I had out there. So that was probably the coolest thing that I got to do.
Did you try to get the guards to smile, or?
I didn't even see the guards.
No,
I don't know where they are. Yeah, I'm sure that's where, when you see online, like that's where everybody in the entire world is. I never even saw them. And we did every tour, everything. So I don't know. They got to be somewhere I didn't look, but we didn't. I never saw them.
Where is a country, and with this we'll end the show, where is a country you would love to see Kristoff in that you're currently not? Because you guys got a pretty good global expansion over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's like more than 70 countries now.
Yeah. So where would you like to see you guys in 2026? That would be a kind of a fun country for you to get to.
I'm thinking like selfishly, like
sure.
Where I would like to go. I would like to see more countries in Africa pick things up. We've always wanted to go to like the Victoria Falls or whatever it is in I don't know if it's the border of Namibia or whatever it is, but we've always wanted to go there. I would love to see like Chile or Argentina or something like that. I've always wanted to see like Patagonia and that part of the world, places like that. But we're pretty strong. We're strong in Europe. We're getting stronger in like kind of those Eastern Bloc kind of Vakias and Vanias and things like that. And in the Asian market as well. We got a great partner, Time Cigar in Hong Kong, who's doing excellent work. And then selfishly, I think I would love to see the Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam. I'd love to see a little bit more work out there, because I love that part of the country, part of the world.
What about like Dubai, UAE?
Yeah, we have distributors in like Lebanon and Dubai, and in parts of that, in that part of the world. I haven't had a chance to spend a lot of time out there, but I certainly would love to see the markets grow to support more direct intervention there.
Yeah, I think we need to cultivate the growing markets, because cigars in the world means cigars here. If cigars go in the world, then there's more of an opportunity for them to go from here.
Yeah, 100%.
So we have to saturate as much as possible. So I love the fact that you guys are growing, and I think that's awesome that you got to go to Fox. I mean, That's very historical lounge.
Just crazy. Yeah,
And you
crazy.
sat in the does everybody get the ability to sit in it if they want to, or is it like roped off and you have to be invited
It's in
to
like a
sit?
museum thing down in the basement that you can go and check out.
But do
But
you
I think it's
ask
been
to sit in there, or did they say you can, or did you just sit down?
um I asked. I was very
Okay.
reticent about it.
Yeah, I would have asked.
And I did yeah, I did ask. But I think it's out for repairs now, the chair.
Well,
Last
since you
I
sat
saw.
in it,
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
broke the leg. Were you
Oh my
leaning
gosh,
back?
can you imagine? Can you imagine?
So World War III, Jarrid starts it over a chair.
Yeah, jeez. No.
Well, Jarrid, thank you so much. I think this was a fun show for you because it was just different than what you normally get. So I appreciate you coming on as always. Thank you for all your support. You're one of the early supporters of this show, and it truly has always meant a lot to me. And so I appreciate you, appreciate Glenn, and your crew and what you guys do. And I love seeing that you guys are growing. Your packaging looks great. I like hearing you guys had a great year in 2025, or at least pulled out where you guys were thinking it maybe didn't. So that's awesome. Anything you want to leave the show with?
No, I just just thank you for the opportunity to talk about the cigars. This was an interesting show. For me, I don't do a lot of these shows, as you know. But this was certainly a fun one to do. It was good to see my old buddy Coop and talk about this kind of stuff. But also, I'm just really happy with the way that the new packaging that we did came out. I've been talking about it for a long time. It's been a long process over
A
the
lot of
last,
headaches.
21 years to change the packaging it's a big swing for us. And so I would just encourage anybody listening, whether you're a retailer or a consumer, to look for the new packaging on the shelf. Let us know what you think. Take a picture, tag us in it. And give some of this stuff a try, especially the new stuff. The Tres Compadres, as you heard both Ryan and Coop say,
So
absolutely
good.
outstanding.
So good.
It's done
So
really
good.
well for us. So check that out. Check out anything, and please, like I said, if you see the new packaging in the stores, shoot me a message and let me know what you think, because it's, like I said, a really big swing and a very expensive proposition for us. So I just hope everybody likes it as much as we do.
Yeah, and Jarrid's cell phone number is in the description below, so just shoot him text messages with all the pictures that you have.
No way.
All right,
No way.
so thank you again, Jarrid. Thank you to everybody watching. It's been another live episode of the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show here in the Smoking Studios. And until we see you again, smoke what you like. Smoke as much fucking Kristoff as you can, and have a great rest of your week. Bye.